Sentire Media.
All right, podcast from Italy on 5 of May. Thank you so much for downloading it. I'm Jason.
Ciao, I'm Ashley.
Together we own, operate, live at, and are sitting in the beautiful setting of Cacamone, a little agriturismo nestled right by Piobico in beautiful central Italy.
La Tavola Marche, that's us.
That's us. It is a beautiful, cool, overcast spring day. We have been hard at work, which is why this podcast is probably 10 days late.
Something like that. Who's counting?
Like that. But worry not, because this will underwhelm you, because we're going to do this quickly, and we got a lot of work to do. So start us off, Ash.
We got to go all the way back to Easter. There was the Easter, the Saturday before Easter. So normally we've always been busy or doing stuff with Gaggi and stuff. And this year we're not making any plans for Easter. The first guests had checked out the week before, and that went great. A group of women from Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and they were a blast. Super laid back. It was normally, I have to say, in a group of 10, you've got someone who doesn't necessarily want to be here, especially if it's like a mixed group like that. If it's like a workshop and everyone wants to come, that's one thing, but you normally have one stick in the mud, and not a single one. It was great. So good start. And
the weather wasn't particularly great either. It wasn't cold. It was just wet.
Mm-hmm. We made cappelletti because it was kind of, like you said, kind of spring crappy.
And for Easter as well.
Yeah. So this year, Easter, the Saturday before Easter, I had no idea. We never go out. That is like a poppin' day in town. And it's the day that you do stuff in town, because Easter is then the day you do stuff with your family, and Easter Monday is the day you do things with your friends. So Easter Saturday is the day you do stuff with the locals. And the pharmacist was so sweet, and he was opening his little cantina and was like, come on by. So what was going on was little spots in town were opening up for music, and some of the cafes, and like the little cantina guy, little spot was opening up for breakfast salato. So what does that mean, Jay?
Salty breakfast. So basically just slices of prosciutto and lonzo and cheese and hard-boiled eggs that are blessed.
Or scrambled eggs with truffles.
With crochet de Pasqua, the Easter cheese bread that's always there.
Because they don't normally, a lot of times Italians will have their cappuccino or their cafe and like a croissant or well, it's not really a croissant. It's a cornetto. So it's kind of more of a sweet on-the-go breakfast. So this is a special time of year to have a real proper...
And they start drinking.
And they start drinking early. And he said there was music going on at lunch and stuff going on until after lunch and all this. And we, like Jason said, we've been rocking and rolling and busy doing and with this weather, nonstop mowing. And so we didn't get there till 5-ish or 6. We fed the dogs and thought, 6 is like a totally perfect aperitivo time. And we showed up in the town. Our little tiny Piobico was packed, and different bars were all pumping different DJs and music. And we made it to his cantina right as he was getting ready to close the doors to go home. And the poor guy, he is the nicest pharmacist and does this on the side for fun, just as like a community thing to do. He looked so exhausted and was like, come in for a drink. I'm so glad you guys actually made it. And so we go in and we're chatting with him for a minute. And because the door's open, the poor guy,
more people
start strolling in. And he's like, of course, come in. And I felt so bad because I was like, I have been there. This guy has been working and on since God knows what time this morning. It's now after 6. You're fried. You thought you were closing the door. And now, oh man, you're back at it again. People wanting to start singing and drinking more. But that's the beauty of Italy. The Italians are excellent at keeping the party going.
But by 8 o'clock, it was wrapping up, and everyone started stumbling home. I
like that time period. Either
they
start early.
They started it.
I mean, exactly. No, if they were serving up some Bloody Marys, all right. But so Saturday before Easter was great, and then I don't know, was it Easter Monday? Rosanna and Gaggi invited us to come over, but only after lunch. This was made very clear. We are not invited to lunch, but come over after lunch, not because anyone wanted to see us. It was purely because one of Gaggi's nieces follows us on Instagram, follows Leroy, and wanted to meet Leroy so bad. And so Leroy got a social invitation, and it ended up to be great. But it was just hilarious. I loved how they reiterated multiple times after lunch. And then they weren't talking. We know Gaggi eats at noon, so they weren't talking like 4 come by. No. As soon as they had finished lunch, we were eating. They called and they're like, "We've finished lunch. Are you coming over now?" And it was like, "Well, we're about to eat lunch." But I don't know. It was funny.
Ha!
Oh my God!
I'm tired today.
I could tell. Why are you tired?
Why am I tired? Because we're getting everything going. So the garden, the pool, all the boxes around the house, pressure washing, all that kind of stuff, which is par for the course. I mean, we do it every year, but for some, I don't know. As we get older, I feel the recovery time takes longer and longer. And
the noises start becoming more often and louder, meaning I know I do it. Ugh, like standing up.
Totally. But
I've started making a lot more noises.
I can still do the work. It's just that it feels like 10 years ago I would pop out of bed and be like, "Ooh, I'm a little sore today. Yeah, we did a good day of work." And today
slept well.
And this morning it's like, "Oh my God, I feel like Tin Man. Like, oh, I don't know. Let's take the morning off."
Well, we've done everything from this. Since the last guest to the next guest will have been about a month or so. And, man, we've been nonstop. We did a whole dump truck full of cheaps. We went wood chipping down the road, and that was pretty satisfying.
Ashley, a few years ago, I come home and she goes, "I bought something." And I've told this story before, but I was thinking, well, what, like some dumb furniture that we don't need, or you're not into like clothes or shoes or anything like that. You barely shower. So what'd you get? And she shows me, and it's a wood chipper, like the one at the end of Fargo where he's grinding up the guy.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, right.
Yeah, so we have this big wood chipper, so we got to use it. So we made we filled up the dump truck with wood chips. So I got chips for the rest of my life.
So we call him a neighbor. He comes back and forth Pierangelo along the road, and they've been felling the wood over the winter along our road. And so they've already picked up and separated the trees, the branches, the brush bits and everything. And so we had asked him, what you going to do with that brush right there? Can we get in on that? And he's like, yeah, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, we got a chipper. And he was like, yeah, but then what? And I said, we're putting it on all the plants and everything. And he's like, oh, that'll be good. And sure enough, over Easter weekend, we hauled the Chipatrice down there, the wood chipper, set up the truck, and just blew it right in. It was awesome. We were so exhausted. It was hilarious. I was talking to my sister and my cousin, who are both 2 years younger, so 41. And I was like, you guys, we're so exhausted. We worked for let's just call it 4 hours. I said, we were not hauling wood. We were moving branches and just feeding them into a chipper. We weren't we didn't have to climb up a side of a hill to get them and drag them down. It was all on the side of the road. But like Jason said, just starting to feel older and going, oh my God, it was just branches.
So the point of this whole story is I think we need an employee, like a permanent employee. We have ladies who help us out when we do cleaning, but I think for next year we're going to look for someone.
But we were talking about this, and I think we have to be age discriminatory and say no one under 35. I don't know. I feel like between conversations, like being able to think they'll get work done, like motivation, I feel like someone who is a bit older, I don't know. I feel like
What are you talking about? The only people I've ever been able to find throughout the years are people who are retired who want to come and do something like that. I don't necessarily looking for retired people, but
Oh, I thought you meant like a stage to come out here.
no, I'm talking about like an actual contract for work where it's all legal and it's a real contract.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. And they show up every day.
We got work for them.
Oh, man. But my body's sore today. So I woke up this morning. The sky was overcast. There was a little breeze. We are ahead of the game as far as where we need to be at this moment in time, 5 May.
We got the pool open and power washing, baby. All around the house, all around the pool. Somehow we got lucky with the pool this year, and it looks great.
Boxes are planted.
Onions in.
Onions are in. The garden will go in this next week. And so we're ahead of the game a little bit. So I thought, let's take this morning off. Can you hear it in my voice?
Speaking of plants and flowers and all that stuff, we went, maybe it was for May 1st.
Primo Maggiore.
And the Urbania, our next little town over, has had a flower festival in the piazza for years. And whether we've been able to go or the guests have gone and brought things back, we'll always find like different herbs and just really pretty flowers and just something different than we normally see at the nursery. And so it's always a fun one to go to if we get the chance. So Jason was like, hey, saw the Fiore Festival's going on, Fiera. Let's go this weekend. Excellent. Walk the dogs, get everything set. We're like, let's go early so it's not crazy and we can really walk around and enjoy. We get there and it is busy, which is nice to see, but it's just a shit sale. There were no flower stalls of like.
No, it was just the regular traveling crappy
It was just
market.
a traveling market. It was like, what the hell? And then we saw our buddy Mattia, the porchetta guy, and we went and talked with him. And we were like, what the hell? Where are the freaking flowers?
I'm like, am I crazy or did I remember this being a flower and plant like spring kind of festival? And he's like, yeah. A couple of years ago they changed it all over because the vendors couldn't sell it. Like it didn't bring enough traffic, and the vendors
and depending on the weather,
because the stall fees were too expensive. And I thought, oh, you know what? I've always wondered how much does it cost to have your truck at one of these traveling markets? And here's the answer. Between 70 and 80 euros for Urbania. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure if you're in Rome, it's probably
a little bit
more. But, and of course, the positioning, I think, goes by seniority.
Yeah, and
I don't think you can just be the new kid on the block and come and be right at the center in the middle of. I think it goes by seniority, definitely.
And when you're selling little pots of flowers for
50, 80 cents,
50, 80 cents, maybe $2, $2.50 for like a bigger pot, then yeah, you got to sell a lot to make up for that. So, sadly,
but I don't understand why the shit sale, garbage sale does better. I mean,
I don't know
because they love that. They love that kind of stuff.
Well, because if you're selling a pair of shoes for $20, you only need to sell a couple pairs of shoes.
That's true. Probably the margins are better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. There you go. All right, mystery solved.
Doing all this work, you've been able to fire up the tractor, and both tractors, and use different implements and things. And we've realized every time we go to do one of these projects, something breaks. Or, it's not just fire it up and head up, start working.
Since all my stuff is old and rusty and it all runs, but it seems like every time we use something, put it in a field, or use it for actual work, something breaks. Sometimes it's big. Sometimes it's not a big deal at all. But nevertheless, every time something breaks. So this last one with the chipper, I broke the handle off the...
we go to get ready to pull out kind of thing.
Yeah, I go to get the trailer off the tractor, and you put this stand down. What would you call it? I'm sure there's a proper name for it. But you lower down a stand so that you can take it, so that it takes the weight of the trailer and you can back it off. I go to start turning the crank so the wheel goes down, and the crank comes off in my hand.
Like immediately. I don't even know if you did a full rotation.
Now, Now,
like, wait, what? Is that supposed to happen?
Is it the biggest deal in the world? Is the trailer totally broken? No. But now I have to bust out a welder, and I have to get a grinder and grind it down. And it's now an hour of doing shit before I can actually go do the work I needed to do.
I know you went to borrow the neighbor's tractor. Or not tractor, his implement.
I went to borrow the implement from my neighbor, got it into my field, do one pass, and something happened with the back of the tractor with the 3-point hitch, and something came off and bent the crap out of a piece, and now that thing is busted and needs to be taken off and straightened, and you need giant it's the big old tractor with all the rusted bolts, and you need giant wrenches that I don't have giant wrenches. So can't get that off, so I have to take that to someone to have them try to straighten that. Is it totally broken? No. Someone who knows what they can do. I tried with crowbars to straighten this piece, but it's still not functional.
Then you also did something else and broke the light of your other tractor. Like you just every time.
Yep. This is why it's good that Jason doesn't have new things.
You were like, I thought having a tractor would be the panacea and fix all my problems. And you were like, it's just beginning. Like, I still have so many problems.
But we are able to get more work done. So, but we're almost set up for spring. It's almost there. And once we're set up for spring, then it's just maintenance for the summer and maintaining everything. And it's this.
It's just this mad rush right now
because we're busier here in the second from the 11th through the middle of June.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Is a really busy time for us, and that's the time normally when I put in the garden and open the pool, and we put it in all the flower boxes.
And when we do it with like some calmness and here and there, and it's like this year it just May filled into June, which is great, but it's like whew.
There's no time to do any of that.
No,
stuff.
We got to get it all done before.
People show up and don't want to see a tarp on the pool at the end of May.
No, it looks so good.
Everything looks great, but I'm spent. So, are you? Is that enough of us complaining about?
I'm going to read from the book. Go back to that. There's an old chapter that I thought would be fun. So many people, we talk about the stories all the time. If you're a diehard listener of the podcast, you know who Gaggi is, who we talk about. But this is the chapter that explains the first time and how we met Gaggi. Delivering
that was in the spring, wasn't it?
Delivering those apple pies to the neighbors and meeting the old man.
All right, we're going to wrap. Ashley's going to read something. So if you've made it this far, stick around and hear a little story.
And just in case you're still planning your summer or autumn travels, we still have some dates in kind of mid-June and then through July and August. I've just added a 5-night package at the beginning of July 1st to 6th, and you can either do 1 or 2 cooking classes in that workshop. Family friendly as well. And then, of course, through the fall are gourmet getaways that are paired almost each weekend in September and the beginning of October, paired with some local festivals. The Polenta Festival and then the Ugly Club Festival. And then, depending on if you come the right time in October, is also the Moto Raduno, which is the fun motorcycle, beer, and truffle festival as well. So check out the website for that and stick around for a little bit of I haven't done this in a while, but a little bit of the untitled, unpublished, unfinished book about our first year living in La Marque.
All right, thanks so much for listening. Stick around. Talk to you. Oh, we got to do another one during this month. So we'll be back before the end of the month, allegedly.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Ciao.
Okay, thanks for sticking around. Now, I'm sure I've read this chapter before when I've done this in the past, but I thought this would be a fun one. This was chapter 6 called Welcome to the Neighborhood, and I'll kind of try to add some 2 cents in as I read along. All right. We decided what's more American than apple pie. So Jason and Megan, who's my sister, and she was here for our first 6 months to help us scrub walls, paint, kind of get situated. She wasn't sure what she was going to be doing in life. I was 26. She was 24, and it ended up that she's a pretty damn good baker. We knew this before her whole life. But after she came here, she got the confidence after things like the story I'm about to tell, to go to pastry school, and she did excellent. And then was worked for Tom Douglas in Seattle and was a baker at his location for all of his desserts, which is really cool. Anyway, so Jason and my sister decide they're going to bake pies for all of our neighbors as a nice way to introduce ourselves, even though it seems everyone already knows who we are. We changed my family's age-old Oklahoma pie crust recipe from Crisco to Lardo, and when we realized there's no vegetable shortening for cooking. Happily, Jason begins baking and cooking with Lardo, declaring, I could never do this in New York. Jason explains the differences in rendered lard, Lardo, Crisco to my sister and I. And I suggest for the sake of quality control, we should take one pie as a sample just to make sure it doesn't taste like pork fat before we take them to the neighbors. So we did just that. After the three of us inhaled an apple pie, we concurred, no pork flavor, pure flaky deliciousness. So Jason and my sister Megan continue baking off about a half a dozen pies for our neighbors. As unbeknownst to our neighbors, I begin making grassroots marketing campaign about this little known region. It seems our introductions are too late. We're convinced there's been a town hall meeting announcing the arrival of the Americans. I swear to God, we felt like they had this meeting, that there was like a dry erase board up with our photos and how much we were paying, where we came from. Everyone knew all these details about us. It was crazy. So as we deliver the apple pies door to door, all four neighbors living along our road, we're met with a myriad of reactions. Our first stop is to the little old couple we've seen tending to their immaculate garden about 4 kilometers down the road. So if you've been to our house, back then, this would have been, this is where there's like a house right on the road, 2 little houses right on the road, and then a third house right after. And these are great. Okay, back to the story. Our first little stop is the old couple we've seen tending their immaculate garden. Each time we pass, our welcoming waves are exchanged with death stares. So what better place to begin? With a rap on the door, it creaks open. So it was hilarious. This lady, okay, let me go back, keep reading, then I'll add another story. With a rap on the door, it creaks open. In the entry is a hunched over woman who looks to be in her 90s in a classic house coat that's all grannies wear. She's silent. Ciao, we're your new neighbors. We made a pie for you, Jason says proudly with a huge smile. Of course, this is all in our broken Italian. She looks at us like we're stranger danger. Perhaps he said it wrong, so I repeat exactly what he said with a little more pizzazz. Ciao, we are your new neighbors. We made a pie for you. No, grazie, she replies with a look of horror, as if we get our kicks driving around and handing out homemade confections laced with arsenic to old ladies. It was hilarious. So we press on. No, we're your new neighbors. We live at Cacamone, about 5 kilometers, più avanti, a little further down the road. And she said to us, I swear to God, she said, I've never been that far down the road. Never. And sweetly, Jason asks, oh, are you new here too? And which is hilarious. She says, no, I've lived in this house my entire life. Felt like she was about to slam the door in her face. Luckily, at that moment, her husband arrives as he's heard something about the conversation and a bit of commotion. And he says, si, yes, Cacamone. He confirms it exists. Thank God he seems to be a bit more worldly and has taken a drive to the right longer than she has one day. Were you curious where the roads lead? I wanted to ask, what the hell? You've lived here she was probably born in this house. Later we find out there is a family cemetery down the road, closer to our house, but still not all the way to our house. So I guess that's how she hadn't known. She'd only made it to the cemetery. To this day, we are still flabbergasted that she had never made it more than a few kilometers to the right out of her drive. After they're no longer afraid that we're there to kidnap or poison them, we try again to offer the pie, almost shoving it into their hands. I say, una torta mela americana, a gift. Oh, no, we couldn't accept that. There's only 2 of us. What could we do with all this food, the old lady says. Jason, Megan, and I look at each other. My God, this is the hardest I've ever had to work to give away a freaking homemade pie. I'm damn near ready to take it home and eat it myself, I say. Just as we're ready to leave, her husband counters, "Thank you. We can share it with our daughter and her family across the street." At that, the little old lady spins on her heels and waddles out of sight. The old man explains that his daughter lives across the road in the house with the honey sign. He lives there with her husband. She lives there with her husband, their 2 daughters, and father-in-law. Our eyes widen at that thought. Wow, that's a lot of family within 50 feet. I guess they really like each other. As we wave goodbye and get ready to climb into the car, we turn and see the little old lady has returned with fists full of eggs running towards us. "Take them," she says, immediately. She reminds us of the little old lady in The Wedding Singer that pays for Adam Sandler's music lessons with meatballs and tells them, "I want to watch you eat them." From that moment on, she was known as Meatballs. And it was hilarious. Meatballs was not a happy lady. She would raise, they live right on the road, and the road is a gravel road, super dusty at times in the middle of the summer. And she would go out and hose down the road to keep the dust down from her house. And if you drove by too fast, she would run outside and wave her fist in the air at you. And it was hilarious. She would do this to our friend all the time. We were like, it's just meatballs out there. Anyway, back to the story. Our next stop was to a little farm known as Il Molino, the mill. It's just past our house, another 2 kilometers further down the road. The driveway was full of 1986 Fiat Pandas, a sure sign of retired old men. We joke they must give you the key. They must give you the keys to a 30-year-old Panda when you turn 60 in Italy. I swear to God, it's like the AARP kind of thing. It's a mandatory payout is a Panda. We were not mistaken. As we walk up to the greenhouse, we were greeted by a bounding, muscular German short-haired pointer and yells of, Tom, vieni qui, come here." 4 men in head-to-toe camo appeared curious to see what the commotion was all about. Not knowing who lived here, we started our shtick again to the general crowd. Okay, we knew that Fusciani, our landlord's cousin, lived there, but we didn't know who he was. We just knew his name was Basilio, so that was part of why we were coming there. "Ciao, we're your new neighbors. We live at Cacamone. We made a pie for you." We have our spiel down. Jason beamed once again. This time they understood, maybe not exactly who we were or what kind of dessert it was, but all that mattered was that we came bearing food. The shortest of them all, this is Gaggi, the shortest of them all started ribbing his friend. We couldn't quite understand, but something about, "He's fat enough, look at that belly. He's not going to share any of this with us." Well, it ends up the one with the belly and the blue eyes is a cousin of Fusciani, Basilio. He knew exactly who we were. Hell, he probably knew how much we were overpaying in rent, too. "Basilio," he said with a smile as he stuck out his hand to shake, "the pleasure is mine. So you're the Americans. Thanks for the cake." On a side note, pie does not exist in Italy. Sure, they have cakes and tarts, but not a proper flaky, crusted pie filled with fruit or pecans, a la mode kind of pie. And I should know, I am a pie girl. So much so that in lieu of a god-awful, tacky, inedible monstrosity of a wedding cake, we served homemade pies for our wedding, which was awesome. If you've ever been here, we've got tons of pie stands all over the place, and those were all from our wedding. Anyway, we kindly introduced ourselves to the rest of the men, with half the lot being doctors of some sort. Basilio is a professor of orthodontistry, the ballbuster is a cardiologist, and the other a general practitioner. Let me tell you, by the looks of these men, I would never guess they were in the medical profession. They asked us questions at a mile a minute. We just smile and nod. The cardiologist never took his eyes off us, completely enamored by the thought of young Americans living all alone at Cacamone. "We seemed so brave," he said. Basilio showed us around his garden, and we pieced together bits and pieces of who was who and where everyone lived. "I live in a Pecchio. This is just my country house," Basilio explained, which is only, 10 kilometers down the road, which is always hilarious. Together with the other doctors, they work on this little garden together, sharing their work and their harvest. As we walked, he picked and anything that was edible he placed in his basket. Once we made our way back to the car, Basilio told us if we ever need any wood to come and take it from his pile. Little did he know the wood bandits had already struck. We had been stealing his wood for months, so we had no idea. Then he handed us the basket of fresh picked produce and said, "Per voi." that it was for us. How sweet. Grazie, we said in unison, amazed at the beautiful gift. As we made our way along the road, meeting neighbors and handing out pies, we were given a bounty of gifts from honey, eggs, and prosciutto to a fresh shot deer's leg. Jason's plans on roasting the meat after it marinates in Chianti with rosemary overnight. He proclaims, amazing. This deer was literally frolicking in the field surrounding the house yesterday, and tonight it will be dinner. Now that's what I call from field to fork. The invitations begin to pour in for dinner with neighbors, including an invitation from our Italian teacher in town, a retired French professor, Rosalba, that doesn't speak a lick of English, making lessons very difficult at times. Okay, this is hilarious. She was so sweet. She offered free language lessons in town. However, like I said, she's Italian, retired French professor. She didn't speak any English. There was 2 other people in this class with us, 2 other Dutch women. Now, the Dutch women spoke perfect English, and they both spoke pretty decent French. So if we had a question, we would have to ask the Dutch ladies. They would translate it in their head from English to Dutch to French, and then the French teacher would try to explain it to us, or the Italian French teacher would try to explain it to us in Italian. It was chaos. I mean, it was fun and it was really sweet, but God, those classes were so slow and difficult. But anyway, let's see here. Where was I? She does, however, patiently teach Jason that this is Rosalba, the teacher. She does very patiently teach Jason the very local peasant recipe for passatelli and brodo in her tiny kitchen one afternoon after class. I think the time spent in our house, we learned more than we ever did in the library below the comune in the city hall. Conjuncting verbs. It is so true. So the story continues with Gaggi. This isn't in the book. This is, or maybe it is, but it's just a different chapter. So we didn't realize that was Gaggi until we still hadn't realized. We go and deliver these pies to the neighbors. Maybe like a week later or so, there's a business card attached, like tucked into the front door. And it says, it's written on one side that says, come to dinner at my house on Tuesday and bring the other girl. And we're like, what? Who is this? And we flip it over, and it says, Dottore Gaggi Settimio, cardiologist. And we were just like, who the hell is this? And classic Gaggi style from day one, it wasn't an invitation, it was a demand. But Jason, this is so funny and sweet and innocent. He was convinced, because we were brand new still here, just a couple of months. We had moved in December. This is their first spring. And he had been convinced that, like, local mafia was going to show up and want a cut of our business. So he assumed immediately, freaking mafia. This is mafia calling, and they're calling us to dinner. This is it. And then our imagination exploded, and we were like, oh my God, he said, bring the girl, meaning my sister. He's a cardiologist. They're going to harvest our freaking organs. And I have no idea how it went from a dinner invitation to mafia harvesting our organs, but it did. And we realized we might as well go because they know where we live. So there's no sense in not going to this dinner where we're going to be probably eaten alive. I don't know. So we're shaken down at the very least. So I try to get directions. I have no idea what he's saying. He's just yelling at me. I barely get like how to get to his house. They're like, we'll meet you on the road. I was like, thank God. We get up to his house. It's him and Rosanna and me and Jason and my sister. And all we can really say much about is like explaining the house. We have 5 apartments. This is how many bedrooms and bathrooms we have. We had our honeymoon in Italy, like our still like basic intro. It was all we could really muster. Our pipes were frozen. We couldn't do much chit chat, that's for sure. And Gaggi and Rosanna did not speak any English. The only phrase, proudly, that Gaggi was able to say in English is from his favorite television show that is on that has been dubbed into Italian and is on television every single day here. It's a little something called Walk a Texas Ranger, and that phrase that he could say in English is a one shot, one kill. So he was impressing us with his English. Now, he's also hilariously Italian and Catholic and would say that not speaking English, this is the cross I must bear. So we like muster through this dinner and could barely understand anything. But the one thing we could get is that they were ribbing each other, which I liked, kind of flipping each other's shit back and forth too. But there was this twinkle and curiosity in their eye. And we left the dinner and we were like, all right, it wasn't mafia. It's just a crazy old guy and his wife. And little did we know they would become our mama and papa for life. They so after that dinner, I don't know, maybe another week or something passed, maybe not. And we come home from going to the coast to like the Costco and doing some shopping, and it's kind of starting to rain. And Gaggi and Rosanna are here. Doctor and doctor's wife. He was fully practicing at this time as a cardiologist. And he is mowing our lawn, and she is trimming our hedges. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? What are they doing here? Why are they doing this? They pack up because it's starting to rain. And as they pass in to get into their car, like not any other word spoken. This is so my grandpa. He just says it needed it. And they drive away. And it was like, okay. Then another couple weeks would pass and they would show up with dead capons and be like, here, we're going to show you how to feather a chicken. And it was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing this morning. Never would they call beforehand. It would just be showing up or here when we got home. And they kind of forced themselves into our lives, but we're forever grateful and thankful. But it all started that morning delivering the pies to the neighbors. So who would have thought? And we had no idea that this was the most American thing we could do. We just thought this was like a normal thing. You move somewhere, you either bring a neighbor a pie or they bring you one or something like that to say hi and welcome. And I guess for the Italians, it was straight out of a movie. And for the one little old lady, arsenic and old lace, I guess. But anyway, just wanted to share that fun story of how we met Il Dottore, the Godster, the one and only. All right. Thanks so much. Hey, if you guys want me to tell other stories too, shoot me a message if there's certain things you want to know more about. You want me to tell some crazy old story, wildest guess, something like that. Who knows? All right. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. Ciao, ciao.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.